Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Deanne Battle, and welcome to the Composite. I've got our festive, celebratory, what do you call it here, filter. And we're going to just go ahead and start season 3. All right, so the date is correct. The time is incorrect. For those that know, I work in the afternoons and evenings, and what I found was like the few times that I did this show, like the handful of times I did this show in the morning and then tried to run my errands afterward, I would be like in a scramble to try to get, back home on time so I could start work on time. And so I just reversed it. So my apologies. So season 3, this episode will probably be brief. I wanted to talk about a couple of things, one personal and one pop culture element. So I taught yesterday, came home, ran errands, so on and so forth. And then before I went to sleep, The Walking Dead, right? So they had another spinoff. So for those that know how much I love zombies, I've stayed abreast of these spinoffs as they've come out. I think I've seen all of them, a couple of episodes at least, except for The Walking Dead, the one with the kids. I watched the extended promo, and then I watched a clip. It just seemed too dumb. I'm sorry. Like, if you're a kid growing up in the zombie apocalypse, you're like, oh, I just wonder what's happening over there. No, stop. Like, the whole premise of it. I mean, I know teenagers get into trouble and everything, but it just seems like, okay, everybody else is getting eaten by the undead and are starving in fields and in various parts of the country. I don't think that that's the best environment to go on a frog and toad like adventure. So I never watched that one. Now, Fear the Walking Dead, and I've mentioned this before, I'm just kind of refreshing. Fear the Walking Dead. I liked the premise of it. My issue with that show was the character development. I watched about a season and a half. I didn't really like anyone except for the father. There was, I'm sorry, I forget his name, but there is on that show, a Latina character, and she was traveling with her parents, and her father's character, the actor that played that character, he played the heck out of that role. He had some really good lines too, but then I don't want to ruin it for anybody, but then he was gone for a while, and it just was like, oh man, like, if that's the only person that I like, and then, I won't tell you what happens, or, if there's like a twist to it. But anyway, like, I won't tell you what happens, but it was just kind of like, okay, his character's either gone or gone for a while and will be back at some point. And I say that because here's the thing. The reason I'm being like really shady about this is because like anybody that's interested in the Walking Dead universe, you know that like if you don't see a body, you cannot claim that person died. So that's why I'm like, how do I phrase this? And then also too, because I only watched a season and a half, I saw clips from the seasons afterward, but I wasn't 100% sure what happened. But so he was the only character that I liked, that I had respect for. Everybody else, I was just waiting for them to get murdered by the zombies or each other. And so I was just like, yeah, I don't like that one. Tales of the Walking Dead, it's like an anthology series. It's somewhat like American Horror Story meets The Walking Dead. That was more like jokes. Most of those episodes, I didn't see all of them, but I saw most of them. Most of them were like humorous, and they were funny-ish. If you like Terry Crews, the episode that he did was actually pretty good. And then what else? And then Samantha Morton, she plays Alpha on The Walking Dead on the flagship series, and she had a spinoff on Tales of the Walking Dead. She's just a really good actor, so yeah, definitely check that out. And so all of that being said, then after the flagship Walking Dead show, went bye-bye, we got Walking Dead Dead City. Right. I did a review of that. The acting chemistry between the two actors, the Lauren Cohan and Jeffrey Dean Morgan. I mean, the acting is good. That's not an issue. They've inhabited these characters for a long time. And so what I like about their performances is that the Walking Dead Dead City, I think, is supposed to be like 10, 15 years in the future after The Walking Dead ends. And I just like the way that, like, their portrayal internalizes that time, right? Like, you can tell it's been a long time just by the way that they engage with each other. That's good acting. Like, you can't make that up. I wish they were getting better scripts. Each episode of Walking Dead Dead City was overall decent, but it's just the whole narrative arc is very, very thin. And so they are doing a second season. I don't see them getting too much more than maybe one more season out of it, because it's very, like I said, there's not like the big internal engine driving it. And so it's just kind of like, Now, the one with Daryl, the Walking Dead Daryl Dixon, dude, I tried to watch that first episode 2 different times. The first time I fell asleep. The second time, I think I got to like 10, 15 minutes from the end and I fell asleep again. I don't think I'm going to be able to make it happen with that show. And I've mentioned this before. It's just the whole premise of it. Okay, so something happens at Alexandria and then Daryl leaves? Or is Daryl just kind of like doing his usual and just dicking around on his motorcycle? So he's dicking around on his motorcycle. I don't know, something happened. And then he floats across the ocean on a boat for a month with no food or water and ends up in France. I mean, that's all I got from the first episode. And I was just like, okay, so Walking Dead Dead City, the plot is thin. Walking Dead Daryl Dixon, the plot is non-existent. God bless to Norman Reedus. Get your money. But other than that, I don't know what you're supposed to do with that one. So, of the post Walking Dead, I'm talking about the main show. After the main show has gone away, Walking Dead, the ones who live, I have to say is the most promising thus far. And I watched that first episode last night. I did pause it a couple of times. It did get a little bit slow. And then once it was over, I realized what it is. So I won't tell you too much because I don't want to spoil it. I actually think it warrants... I try to give, with new series, I try to give people like a ballpark figure on the number of episodes to watch. Meaning it's a number of episodes where you can get a realistic sense of the show and then, decide what you want to do from there. And which is interesting because I think it's a different number of episodes for each show. Like one of my favorite shows of all time, Ozark, I think like after first episode, I was like, okay, yeah, I'm watching whatever they do with this because they just lay it out for you. Like, listen, this dude's effed. He's got to try to find a way to get out of this. So, but then, other shows, it's more of a slow burn. It takes a while to like put the elements in place. And then, now you can see what's going on with it. What's a show that's a good example of that? I think the first show that comes to mind is the show The Americans, the Kerry Russell show. I don't know, like the subject matter seems like I would be interested in it, but I think it was in the third episode I started to like lose hope a little bit. I was like, I don't know what's happening. And then like 45 minutes in, and I'm saying it's the third episode, maybe it was the third or fourth, but anyway, it was at a point where I was like, okay, maybe I just need to like give up on this, because at that time, I forgot where I was living, but wherever I was living, I had cable. And so at that particular time, I had, a bit of free time, to mindless time to like watch TV or something, but I didn't like have it on a streaming service. And that episode, it was like 45, 50 minutes in, and they threw something in there, and I said, did I just wait, what? So then I was like, okay, now this is a show worth watching. I still haven't finished it, but I will say, like, at an episodic level, that was the way they did that ending, that was some good writing. All right, so my ballpark figure for Walking Dead, The Ones Who Live, how have they set it up? I think that the writing on this Walking Dead spinoff is pretty fast paced. So I think you should know by the end of the second episode if you want to keep messing with it or not. Yeah, because they're already like a couple of big things happened in the first episode. So I haven't seen the promo for the second episode yet, and I haven't watched the second episode yet. So I have to try to get my hands on that. But but anyway, yeah, so far so good. My problem with the episode, because I mentioned that I paused it a couple of times, too much voiceover and narration. But I think that that's just a double-edged sword, right? Because on one hand, I'm thinking from like a writer's perspective, and I don't do television writing at the moment, but I'm just thinking like in terms of plot and audience engagement. I would think that the double-edged sword there is at one point, right? Because you're putting this infrastructure right on top of the foundation of the Walking Dead universe. So you already have that going for you. And so you don't have to worry too much. I wanted to try to see if I could get rid of this filter. Oh, I'm learning new things with this all the time. Oh, that looks crazy, but appealing. Okay, we'll leave crazy on for a little while. Okay. So yes, Walking Dead universe. Oh boy. Speaking of episodic, so anyway, I would think from a writer's standpoint, you are putting the infrastructure of a new series right on top of the Walking Dead universe, so you can tap into that. But then, on another note, you still want the series to function on its own independently. And it's a little bit harder to do that if you're not, right, building that in from episode one. And so there's a trade-off that happens. So the trade-off that I think is they use the characters. Rick has like these long tears of narration, and it gets you from like year one to year whatever. I won't tell you, just in case you want to watch it. And you're like, okay, so they just compressed his entire life since X into this drawn out narration with scenes. And it was just a little bit harder to stay engaged, right? Because we haven't seen this character in, quite a while. So, you want to see him talking to people, see him doing stuff. And a lot of the episode is him chatting about things he has done, right? So you don't actually get to see it. So the payoff with that is, like I said, they're able in that first episode to give you a couple of major plot nuggets in that first episode. But I think that the downside of that is, number one, like I said, the tears of narration. And then, again, if you're hitching the wagon of this show so closely to the Walking Dead flagship show, then I think it makes it harder to depart from the mythology of that flagship show. So, like, let's say on the Walking Dead main show, you had like a tertiary character, and you're like, oh, she's, she's X, Y, and Z sort of person, but you want to take it in a different direction for the Walking Dead, the ones who live. Now, in one version, right, if you're like, oh, this show is literally just a continuation of the Walking Dead main show, then you're jammed up a little bit, versus if you treat it as like, okay, yeah, we're borrowing from that, but then we're doing our own stuff over here. Then I think it gives you a little more wiggle room. It's the same team, but what I like is similar to the Walking Dead Dead City. It seems like the principal actors are very much involved in the production, or at least their names are on it as a credit. I don't know how much decision-making power that they have, but, again, if you have played that character for that long, I think you can somewhat reasonably expect at least a modicum of ownership going into that. So I will, in the next few days, try to get my hands on that second episode of The Walking Dead, The Ones Who Live, and then I'll report back. But so far, it does seem like the season warrants a watch. So that's exciting, because Dead City and the Daryl Dixon, I was just like, oh, it makes me like, I'm the type of appreciator of different arts, right? So whether it's a book or a movie or a TV show, I would rather miss that story and miss those characters, as opposed to get a sequel or a prequel that's just so bad that it damages the memory that I have of the original. I'd rather like miss it a bit more, as opposed to like get the additional content and it's not that great. Let's change this again. There is some foolishness on this app. What did that? Oh, this just randomly zooms in and out on your face. Okay. Yeah, this is a bunch of stuff that this app does. Like, why do I need an application to ever do this? That might be a little cool. Okay, so that was The Walking Dead, right? The other thing that I wanted to talk to you about. Oh, okay. So this is slightly inobtrusive. So the other thing is that I have an essay that went live this morning. There is a tournament called March Danceness, and it is for folks that write creative nonfiction. And I've mentioned that I'm a writer. I've mentioned that I'm a fiction writer, but I also do write creative nonfiction, so not memoir at this point, but a personal essay. And then I also write poems. So poems, personal essays, and then primarily, short stories and a novel that I'm working on. And so the March Danceness tournament, is similar to March Madness. So you have 64 songs, right? They have to be dance songs. And then you have 64 writers that write 64 essays. And so then, the essays and the songs face off. And so my essay is a short piece about the Jennifer Lopez song Get Right. I nominated that as a dance song. I think it's a good dance song, and I talked about it a bit. But on the downside, I am up against Cisco's thong song. I don't think I'm gonna be able to beat the juggernaut here of Cisco. So the category was dance music. But excuse me, my nose is itching. Dance music from the early 2000s, and I mean the thong song had the world. Well, I'm gonna just speak about United States. The thong song had the U.S. in a choke hold. Everyone was singing it, even little kids. I'll never forget the singer Montel Jordan, the guy who sang "This is how we do it." Like he was talking about how like when his daughter, I think, was a baby or like a toddler, she was just learning how to talk, and the thong song came out, and so she's just learning how to speak, and so she would be like the song. She'd be like song or something like that. And so he encouraged her. He was like, yeah, those are the words. But oh, I want to be a parent, but at the same time, there are certain things that parents deal with where it's like, I do not envy your position. Like, can you imagine that Omarion, Chris Brown, and Janae Aiko song, "Supposed to Be"? Can you imagine being a parent when that song came out and your kid, they're old enough to listen to the radio, right? But or listen to music, but they are, young enough where, oh, I might, either need to turn it off or explain what I'm hearing. So for those that don't know that song, and this was from about 10 years ago, but one line is, quote, "Eat the booty like groceries." That is a line in the song. So being an adult human being and saying that, like, I'm giggling like a middle schooler, right? So it's hard to take it seriously. But then to be somebody's parent, and then a kid asks you like, "Oh, what does that mean?" Or what, I don't want to ever have to talk about that. But again, right? If I'm lucky, if I end up starting a family, like you got to deal with it. But it's just like, dang, man, that's like something you don't want to talk to kids about. Anywho, so I wrote about Jennifer Lopez, but I'm up against the person who wrote about Cisco's thong song. So it was a good exercise for me to participate in, but I'm probably not going to win because it's Cisco and it's the thong song. So what I'm going to do is post a link to my essay. Post it to this live, and then so there are only 24 hours to vote. So if people do decide to vote, hopefully you will do that before 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time tomorrow. All right. So what was the experience like? It was nerve-wracking because this is free. I don't think that there is a prize. But at the same point, a majority of people who are participating are writers, meaning that someone has given them some amount of money for their writing. And then also a majority of them that is their genre. So as a writer, you want to decide like what your main genre is, not to, be segregated, but just so, you just have a sense of like what you gravitate toward and, how you want to spend your time. And so I'm primarily a fiction writer. Creative nonfiction is my secondary genre. And so what I found is as I was reading and doing notes for the piece and everything, I started to feel really uncomfortable because like for me, when it comes to fiction, it's just like, give me a word, give me a prompt, give me something, and I'll just like, pew, right? And then I'll turn it into something. And I'm not saying everything that I write in terms of my fiction is good, but what I'm saying is that I feel comfortable in that space, I feel like I have an understanding of what my process is, how I work with words, how I create characters, how I world build when it comes to fiction. With creative nonfiction, I'm much less like on my like the footing. I feel less sure, and so I found that like as I was wrapping up, there were things that I wanted to say, more things that I wanted to write, but the voice of it, I was unsure. Like, I don't know how it came together. So all of that being said, I'm okay with the piece, but it just made me realize like, wow, I really don't do that much creative nonfiction writing as much as I would have wanted. When I was initially admitted to my MFA program, it was in a dual genre, so fiction and nonfiction and creative nonfiction. So I was supposed to write two theses, like, part of my novel and then part of, an essay collection or a memoir. But it was just too much work. And so I just dropped down to fiction. I regret it often, but it's just, I just got to a point in my life where it was like, do I want to keep like adding more and more to my plate and then executing at a lower level? Or would I rather just say, okay, I can't do everything, so let me take this thing away here and then take this thing away there and then see how I can perform just at, at regular people's level. It's just, I don't know where I got the memo that like you have to just keep piling things on. And it's only, I would say realistically, since the pandemic, where I've felt comfortable withdrawing a bit in terms of the sheer amount of things that I try to achieve. But at the same point, even though I'll physically say, oh, I'm sorry, I can't do that. Or like the other day, it was a grant for writers that are, working on a project. And it was like, oh, so I'm just seeing this grant today and I would only have 3 days to work on it. And so I just said to myself, that's not enough time. And so I just closed it and put it away. And so I've just started doing that recently in the, past few years, but I still don't feel comfortable with it. So like I closed the window on the grant application and said, okay, Deanne, three days is not enough. There is a version of me in the past that would have just stayed awake for 36 hours and tried to get it done. And it's just like, for what, I think I'm getting somewhat better about investing in my quality of life. But at the same time, that's why I'm talking about it, because I'm still uncomfortable. I'm like, oh, wow, that would have been a great opportunity to apply for that grant. And you didn't take that opportunity to apply. But that bumping up against the realization that you only have a limited amount of bandwidth as a human being, that the battery needs to be recharged in addition to being depleted. So it's a rough balance. And I brought it up because, this March danceness is just really has been, exposing this element of insecurity within me when it comes to my writing process. Like, I want my essay out there. Like, I'm glad that I forced myself to, follow through and write it and turn it in. But then, now I am like kind of stressed out about, well, how is it going to be perceived? But, I'm in my 40s and I'm, trying to be a published writer. So at a certain point, you have to stop like sitting on these words. If you want people to engage with your work and if you want people to see it, you have to stop sitting on the words and let them out into the universe. So that is the precipice that I'm on. Okay. So if on the left side, it's, oh, I'm still writing for myself. Oh, I'm scared. Oh, I'm not, releasing my work into the universe. It's on the left side. And then on the right side, it's, hey, I am published writer. And, I know I'm not perfect, but I've got a little bit, more wherewithal about myself. Got an essay due, got a story due, got a novel due. Put my butt in the seat, get it done, no problem, right? So that's on the right. And then the little afraid, unsure writer is here on the left. And I am here in the middle, right? And so today's essay that is on the March Dancing site, and I'll put the link in the description, but it was like a first step, and now that I ripped the Band-Aid off, I'm just trying to live with that, trying to see how I feel about it. I hope people vote for me, but like I said, I am up against the juggernaut here, so we'll see how we do. The main goal, though, is to really engage with that genre way more than I do, all of my friends who are published writers, they are, they're writing opinion pieces and they're writing personal essays in magazines, or they're doing book reviews or interviews and stuff like that. So that is a space where I need more experience and exposure. But when you're learning how to do a new thing, there is always that, I'm peeling off this layer, not sure how this is going to go. So that's where I'm sitting right now. But I'm really happy that the essay is just done and out there. I was really nervous because, and I mean, I'm still nervous for people to be like, okay, this is not really that good. But it's at the same point, I had to start somewhere. So we will see how that goes. All right. I'm going to hop off because I'll need to start work soon. But thank you for joining me. This has been The Composite, Season 3. Yay! Filters. Let's see if we can get something festive in here. Oh, I like this. I feel like I'm in a 9 Inch Nails video now. Okay, I'll leave this on for a little bit. But yeah, I just wanted to talk a little bit more about being a writer and my writing process. 'Cause, I spend every single day, sometimes it feels like every waking, minute thinking about my work or, writing things down, or, oh, that would be a good sentence, or, oh, this character should be older or younger. That's what's happening up here. So when people are in the line at the bank, I might be on my phone, but I'm on my phone what's another word for the color blue, but not ocean blue, first thing after the sun rises and things like that. That's what I'm thinking about. And so, but that's happening internally. And so when it's all happening internally, and then you try to tell people that you're a writer, it doesn't feel real because they don't have the tangible evidence of what that process is. And so, maybe for someone, if you are a writer or you have a writer in your life, you can maybe have a little bit better understanding of what that dichotomy is like. And this is also too why I don't work on multiple projects at the same time. So when I'm writing something, I'm just working on that. So if it's Tuesday and I'm okay, I have 3 different projects I could be working on, I'm just going to work on one project because it's almost like a forced astral projection and I can't be in multiple places at the same time. So I am capable of I can be here on this live, and then I can be at my job, right? So that's two versions of me. And then there can be a third version that lives in one of those drafts. So there's a third version of me that was writing that Jennifer Lopez Get Right essay. There's a third version of me that's working on my short story collection, a third version of me that's working on my novel, and eventually a third version of me that's doing a story collection of poems. But that third version, that's it. Like, I'm tapped out after that, because it's like anytime I'm in one of those other locations, so the work location or the me, here in social media, like kind of social location, I'm checked out of the other two places. And so I can't, be fully invested in multiple drafts at the same time. It literally just breaks the connection. It's just, I'm not as bad about that now than when I was younger. But when I was a kid, I want to say until I was like 13 or 14, like sometimes my parents would be calling me. I really did not hear them. It wasn't like, oh, I'm ignoring somebody or I'm being rebellious or something. It was like, that universe is silent right now. I have like other things going on. But then at a certain point, like, so my mom would have this pitch and she would say my full name, like with my middle name, just everything. And she had a pitch, and it's not that it was the loudest pitch, but it was like insistent. And then I would snap out and be like, oh, okay. And then I would go into the next room and she'd be like, I'm calling you. Like, what's going on? I'm like, I just didn't hear you. I don't do that as much anymore, but I have to be careful with that. And so I forgot how I got on this subject, but that's why I don't work on multiple projects at the same time. Like, when I'm in a draft, that's where I'm living, and then we log out and then we go live somewhere else. And so I think because of that, it does feel to a certain extent like I'm super exposed today, like having this essay out. But at the same point, what I'm hoping is that with more publishing credits and more time, being less green, less naive, that, I'll have a bit more separation between me personally as a human and my writing once it's out of me, once it's finished. But I did a thing, so that essay is done, and I hope that it will lead to more publishing credits, paid publishing credits. That would be nice. And so we'll see what happens from here. And let's see, tomorrow is Thursday. I've got to strategize about when the next episode will be, but it'll be by Sunday, which is not as helpful, but I will see you before the end of the week. And thank you for joining me on this episode. I feel like there was something else that I was going to say, but I'm sorry, I can't remember it right now. But I'm always grateful for people that engage with my show. So whether it's the lives or if you're seeing this on the replay, thank you for watching. And I hope you have a great rest of your day. God bless.